Dad said, "No gifts this year." Then my sister unwrapped a brand new iPhone, a $4,000 designer bag, and diamond earrings while I sat there with nothing. When I finally asked, "What about me?" my mother slapped me across the face. So I walked outside, sat in my car, and canceled every account that had been funding their entire lifestyle. The slap itself barely hurt. That was the strange part. People imagine a moment like that as something dramatic, something that sends you stumbling backward with tears in your eyes. But it was quieter than that. My mother's palm hit my left cheek at 6:42 p.m. on Christmas Day, in the dining room of the house I had been helping pay for during the previous 3 years. My father was sitting at the table. My younger sister was standing beside a mountain of gift boxes. My aunt suddenly became fascinated by something inside her purse. There was a sharp crack. My head turned slightly. My sister froze with a ribbon in one hand and her new phone in the other. Nobody said anything. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I didn't touch my face. I just looked at my mother, not with anger, not even with shock. I looked at her the way you look at something you have seen every day for years, but are only now understanding clearly. She wasn't horrified by what she had done. She was annoyed that I had asked the question. I picked up my coat, walked to the front door, and stepped outside into the cold. Nobody followed me. Not my father, not my sister, not even my aunt. I sat in my car in the driveway and opened my phone. My name is Daniel. I was 28 years old and working as a software engineer for a technology company in Charlotte. I had graduated early, found a stable job quickly, and become what my relatives like to call the successful one. I was the first person in my immediate family to finish college, the first to earn a salary with benefits, the first to have savings, retirement contributions, and an apartment in my own name. My parents and my younger sister, Kayla, lived about 35 minutes away in the house where I grew up. My father, Thomas, worked part-time at a home improvement store after a back injury forced him to leave his old job. My mother, Linda, worked at the front desk of a medical clinic. Kayla was 23, taking occasional college classes and working a few shifts each week at a clothing boutique. My family wasn't always terrible. My childhood was normal enough. There were birthday parties, school events, family vacations, and Sunday dinners. Nothing dramatic happened. Maybe that was why I didn't notice when everything began to change. It started after I received my first serious paycheck. My mother asked if she could join my phone plan because it would be cheaper. I agreed. Then Kayla joined. Then my father. Soon I was paying for 4 phone lines. Then came the streaming subscriptions. Netflix first, then Hulu because my parents wanted live television, Amazon Prime because grocery delivery was convenient for my mother, a family music plan, a premium sports app my father wanted. Every request sounded small. It's only $15. It's cheaper if we share. We're family. The car insurance was the first major expense. My father had a minor accident and their rates increased. Adding their vehicles to my policy reduced the cost, so I agreed. Then there was the credit card. I had opened a rewards card with a high limit after starting my new job. One afternoon, my mother's card was declined at a pharmacy. She called me embarrassed and upset, and I felt guilty. I added her as an authorized user. The agreement was simple. The card was for emergencies only. Medicine, car repairs, something genuinely necessary. At least that was what I believed. The Christmas gifts appeared one at a time. Kayla opened a brand new phone first. Then the designer handbag, which my mother said she had found on sale for $4,200. Then a pair of diamond earrings in a velvet box. My parents watched her with enormous smiles. I sat across from them with my hands in my lap. The previous month, my father had written in our family group chat that we should skip gifts that year. Money was tight, he said. My mother agreed and added a heart emoji. Kayla sent a thumbs up. I had replied, "Sounds good to me." I had bought nothing because we had all agreed. But as Kayla opened gift after gift, nobody seemed uncomfortable. Nobody looked at me. Nobody explained anything. She kept talking excitedly, holding each item toward the light and taking pictures with her new phone. I waited until the last box was opened. Then I looked at my parents and asked, "What about me?" My mother slapped me before I had completely finished speaking. The sound stopped everything. I looked at her, and something inside me became perfectly calm. I walked out of the house and sat in my car for 11 minutes. At 6:53 p.m., I began canceling everything. First, I opened the phone carrier app. Kayla's line. remove. My father's line, remove. My mother's line, remove. 3 lines disconnected in less than 2 minutes. Then Netflix. I removed every profile and canceled the subscription. Hulu. Canceled. Amazon Prime. Household members removed, subscription canceled. The family music plan was downgraded to an individual account. I hesitated for half a second before canceling my father's sports app. Then I remembered how he had watched his wife slap me and said nothing. Canceled. The car insurance required a phone call. The representative warned me that removing the other drivers would end their coverage immediately. I understand, I said. Are you certain you want to continue? Yes. She processed the request and read me the confirmation number. Then I opened my credit card statement. I had avoided checking it carefully for months because I trusted my mother, or maybe because I was afraid of what I would find. October contained hundreds of dollars in salon visits, restaurants, and clothing stores. November was worse. Then I opened December. There it was. A charge for $4,239 at the same luxury store, printed on the bag my sister was holding inside the house. My mother had bought Kayla's Christmas gift with my emergency credit card. I called the number on the back of the card and reported it lost. I requested a replacement sent only to my apartment and asked that the authorized user be removed immediately. The representative confirmed that my mother's card would stop working within the hour. I placed the phone in my lap and looked at the warm lights glowing through my parents' windows. Then I started the car and drove away. I checked into a hotel 8 minutes away. I ordered a sandwich, took a long shower, turned the thermostat to exactly the temperature I liked, and slept better than I had in years. The next morning, I finally looked at my phone. 7:41 a.m. Mom, the TV isn't working. Dad, something's wrong with the insurance. 30 seconds later. Why does my phone say I don't have service? I read every message. Then I made coffee and watched the city wake up through the hotel window. More calls came. Dad, Mom, Kayla, again. I let every one of them ring. Finally, my father sent a text. I think there's been some kind of mistake with the accounts. A mistake. 3 years of paying their bills. 3 years of quietly covering expenses. My mother slapping me in front of everyone. My sister opening thousands of dollars worth of presents bought with my money. And he called it a mistake. I replied with one sentence. No mistake. Merry Christmas. A minute later, a new email appeared. Subject, we need to discuss the lease. I had almost forgotten. A year earlier, Kayla and her boyfriend Ethan had rented an apartment together. Her credit wasn't good enough, so they asked me to co-sign. I agreed because I believed I was helping family. The lease still had 8 months remaining. Ethan's email was polite. He explained that he understood why I had canceled everything. But my name was still legally attached to the apartment, and we needed to discuss what happened next. Instead of replying immediately, I called a real estate attorney. The consultation lasted 30 minutes. She explained that as a co-signer, I remained legally responsible if they stopped paying rent. However, if Ethan now qualified on his own income, the landlord could agree to remove my name. Then she asked me why I suddenly wanted out. So I told her everything. The payments, the credit card, Christmas, the slap. She was quiet for a few seconds. Finally, she said, I'm very sorry that happened to you. It was the first time anyone had said those words. The first person in almost 24 hours who seemed concerned about me instead of losing access to subscriptions. She advised me to communicate only in writing from that point forward and to document everything. That was already my plan. I emailed Ethan. I asked whether his income had increased during the past year and whether he would qualify to take over the lease himself. He replied within 15 minutes. He had recently received a promotion. His salary was now high enough. He admitted he had not been at my parents' house on Christmas, but after hearing what happened, he believed I had every right to remove myself from the situation. For the first time since Christmas dinner, someone was acting like a reasonable adult. Later that morning, my phone rang again. This time it wasn't family. It was a police detective. She introduced herself and explained that my mother had contacted the non-emergency line, claiming I had somehow stolen services by canceling the accounts. The detective made it clear almost immediately that there was no criminal case. Every account had been opened in my name. Every payment came from my bank account. I was completely within my rights to cancel them. Then she asked a question I hadn't expected. Would you like to file a report regarding your mother striking you yesterday? I stared out the hotel window. Until that moment, I hadn't seriously considered it. Some part of me was still trying to protect my family, but another part finally realized they had never protected me. Yes, I answered quietly. I think I would. She took my statement, documented the incident, and explained that the report would remain on file even if I chose not to pursue charges immediately. After we hung up, I looked through my phone again. My mother had called more than 40 times. My father more than 20. Kayla had sent message after message. At first they were confused, then irritated, then demanding. Finally the messages became threats. They couldn't drive because the insurance was gone. Their streaming services no longer worked. Their phones were disconnected. Everything that had quietly been supporting their lives had disappeared overnight. Not one of them apologized. Not one of them asked whether I was okay. They only wanted their benefits back. Except for one message. Late that afternoon, Kayla wrote, "Are you okay?" It was the first question anyone had asked about me instead of the accounts. I didn't answer. But I noticed it. 3 days later, I met with a civil attorney who specialized in financial disputes involving families. I came prepared. 3 years of account statements, credit card records, copies of every text message, screenshots of every subscription, the police report, a spreadsheet showing every payment I had made on behalf of my family, phone bills, insurance premiums, streaming services, online subscriptions, everything. He spent nearly 2 hours reviewing the documents without interrupting. Finally, he leaned back in his chair. "Most people come in with stories," he said. "You came in with evidence." He explained that my mother's use of the emergency credit card for a luxury handbag could be challenged because the purpose of the authorization had been clearly established. The police report also strengthened my position if the situation escalated. As for the lease, Ethan's promotion made removing my name very realistic. Then he asked the most important question. What outcome do you actually want? Not revenge, not punishment, just the truth. I want my life back. I want my finances back. And I want them to understand that actions have consequences. He nodded. That's achievable. Over the next 2 weeks, everything started falling into place. The property management company approved Ethan as the sole tenant. I received official paperwork releasing me from the lease. For the first time in a year, my name was attached only to my own apartment. The credit card dispute moved forward as well. I submitted every document I had, the statements, the written explanation, the attorney's letter. The issuer opened a formal investigation. A few weeks later, I received provisional credit for the luxury handbag while they completed the review. It wasn't a final victory yet, but it was a start. Around the middle of January, my father sent a different kind of message. "Would you meet me for lunch? Just us. No demands, no accusations, no discussion about subscriptions, just lunch." I thought about it for an entire day. My therapist, whom I had started seeing after Christmas, told me there wasn't a right or wrong answer. The only question, she said, is whether you're doing it because you want to or because you feel guilty. That sentence stayed with me. I realized those were two completely different motivations. Eventually, I agreed. We met at a small diner near my parents' neighborhood. My father looked older than I remembered. He didn't make excuses. He didn't defend my mother. He didn't ask me to restore anything. He simply said I should have stopped her. Then he admitted something else. I didn't know about the credit card. He looked down at the table. That doesn't excuse me. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Finally, I said, "I'm not ready to go back to the relationship we had. But I'm also not saying the door is permanently closed." He nodded. "I understand." He paid for lunch. Then he left. I sat there alone with a cup of coffee, realizing something that had taken me years to understand. You can love someone and still refuse to let them keep hurting you. Those two things can exist at the same time. In early February, the credit card company finished its investigation. The luxury handbag charge was ruled an improper use of the authorized user account. The temporary credit became permanent. I transferred the money directly into my savings account. Then I opened the spreadsheet where I had listed every dollar I had spent on my family during the previous 3 years. Phone bills, insurance, subscriptions, unexpected purchases, emergency payments, everything. The total shocked even me. Somewhere between $24,000 and $28,000. Money I had never really noticed because none of the individual payments seemed very large. One subscription, one insurance payment, one extra phone line, over and over again. I closed the spreadsheet, not because it didn't matter, because it mattered too much. A few weeks later, Kayla texted me again. This time the message was different. I know I should have said something that night. I didn't because I benefited from everything you were doing. I was selfish. I'm sorry. I read it several times. I waited 3 days before answering. Finally, I replied with only 4 words. It's a start. Give me time. She answered with 1 word. Okay. 4 months have passed since that Christmas. My savings are growing again. Every account is in my own name. No authorized users, no hidden expenses, no quiet expectations. I still see my therapist every other week. We've talked a lot about the difference between generosity and obligation, about how fear can disguise itself as love, about how healthy boundaries often feel cruel only because you've never been allowed to have them before. I never moved forward with criminal charges against my mother. The report still exists. For now, that's enough. She hasn't contacted me directly since Christmas. Some days that feels like relief. Other days it feels like grief. Maybe it's both. Looking back, I think about that driveway more than anything else. The cold air, the Christmas lights, my phone in my hand. One cancellation after another. For years I believed I was helping my family because I loved them. Eventually I realized something much harder to admit. It wasn't love keeping me there. It was fear. Fear of disappointing them. Fear of saying no. Fear of becoming the bad guy. The moment I finally stopped being afraid was the moment my life started becoming my own again. That Christmas, I slept alone in a quiet hotel room, and for the first time in years, I slept peacefully.